Welcome to Confessions by Banana Ketchup. I was searching for a dead body and found something even weirder. Yo, first Reddit post. Figure I'd tell you about something that happened to me when I was in my 20s a while back. This is probably going to be really long-winded, but this story requires some backstory to get, I think. So, this happened in 2011. For some reason, I can't get the direct link to the story because the local news website isn't working. Or at least the article about it isn't working. Or it's broken or deleted or something. There is some mention of it online, and you can find people talking about it on forums and linking to the article which appears broken or deleted. So before people start calling me out for not providing a source, Google body found at James A. Reed. And you'll find what I'm talking about. I live really close to James A. Reed. It's a memorial wildlife area of a little over 3,000 acres. It's a popular location for fishing because it has something like 12 small lakes. I consider them large ponds, really, but semantics. Hiking, as there are numerous hiking trails that traverse the entire area, all of which are light hiking, nature walking sort of trails. It's a popular spot for photographers for shooting portraits, and during hunting season, it's popular for bow hunting. I'm an amateur photographer, I guess. I do portraiture for a side gig. I like to fish, and I also like to go hiking, so it's basically one of my favorite places, and I go there really often. I basically broke into portraiture photography by shooting school photos and couples and such at this location. It has fields with tall grass, great colors in the fall, docks, and easily accessible changes in scenery. It's basically a photographic gold mine. I do photography, but I'm quite a bit better known at this point, and obviously significantly better than I was then. But I still use James A. Reed as my go-to location for almost everything. Boy Scout troops also go hiking through the area on nature walks and such. It's just a very popular area. In the summer of 2011, the body of a 19-year-old guy was found at the wildlife park. They call it a wildlife park, but I mean, the wildlife amounts to deer, fish, lots of snakes, squirrels, and cranes. I've never really seen anything else there, and I've been there more times than I could ever count. Anyway, the story of this kid's body was a minor news story, but since I was so familiar with the area, it was of interest to me. The news report was immediately confusing. According to the report, the kid has been partying with some friends, and he OD'd at the party, and the story breaks apart here. His friends say that he wandered off and they didn't know where he went. His mother thinks, for no clear reason, and this is the operating story that the news went with, that he OD'd at the party and his friends dumped his body in the wildlife area in the middle of the night. Both of these things are pretty much impossible, and I'll explain exactly why right now. The article mentioned which lake his body was found near. It was Bodark Lake, which is pretty much the furthest lake from the entrance to the park that you can get to. Getting to this particular lake requires driving down about 1.5 miles long paved road that hasn't had any service in like at least 2 decades. This thing is riddled with potholes that are car killers. If you don't know where they are, you have to take the road slow. Hitting one of these things in anything short of a full-size pickup will likely destroy your tire and wheel. I've driven it so many times, I have the potholes memorized and can drive it pretty normally, waving in and out of them when they come up. But in the dark of the night, this would be hard, especially for some drunk and high teenagers. But that in and of itself isn't impossible to do. There are 3 gates between the entrance and where his body was found. One right at the driveway leading to the park, which is one of the large swinging steel gates. The next gate is just after that one. In order to get to Bodark, you need to make an immediate right-hand turn after the visitor center. And that is where you run into the 10-foot tall chain link fence that's meant to keep the deer in the wildlife area. This fence runs the entire perimeter of the reserve as it's right off a highway, and they want to make sure the deer stay there for hunting season. You need to get through a second chain link fence gate that's chain shut every night. The park opens at sunrise and closes at sunset. After you go through that gate, you get on the previously mentioned paved road for about 3 minutes and come to what they constitute as the ranger station. But it's really just a big parking lot. From here, there is another giant fence gate that is chain shut every night. After you are through that gate, you are in the clear to go to Bodark Lake. The trail near Bodark is particularly scenic, and I've used it countless times for photo shoots. It's also a good walk through nature. So the next day, my girlfriend and I decided we would go check it out, see if we could find where they found the body. I know, disrespectful, but we were gonna go there anyway, so why not? Well, we did find where they found the body. We know this because the police tape was still there, but it was one duck of a chore. In order to get to where the body was found, you had to start on the trail near Bodark, but about 5 minutes into the walk, go completely off the path and through the trees and brush, down an extremely steep slope that goes downward about 20 feet, and cross through the stream at the bottom. The stream was about 3 to 4 feet deep, as it was running high, though the water doesn't move very fast. The only reason we knew where we were going was because the original trail was high enough up that through the trees we caught the glint of the yellow caution tape way in the distance. When hiking, we both wore a pair of Vibram hiking shoes that didn't have trouble with water. Yes, the ones with toes. But the water was still deep and we didn't particularly want to go swimming, so we walked upstream for quite a while until we found a section that was thin enough to jump across. Mind you, we walked upstream for about 10 minutes before we found this, and then walked back down the stream to where we had been to continue in the direction of a caution tape, which we could no longer see now that we were on level with it. After a few more minutes of trudging through particularly thick brush and forestry, we finally arrived at the second stream, on the other side of which was the roped off area of police tape. The actual taped off area was pretty small, so we were able to tell pretty much exactly where the body was found. It was on a pile of rocks right on the other side of the stream. We didn't cross this stream because we'd found it, and that was good enough. There was nothing to see. We'd gone from a Class 0 nature walk to a Class 2 to, at times, Class 3 hike getting here. There was absolutely zero possibility of any drunken teenagers carrying a human body this far into the wilderness, in the middle of the night. And this is after they'd bypassed the 3 gates, which were never reported to have been broken into at all. This kid was way off the beaten path, and was very literally in the middle of the wilderness. It was so remote that his body was there for a couple days before anyone found it. I've done a lot of hiking, and even completely sober, in the middle of the day, this was a serious challenge to get to. It's equally impossible that he just wandered away from some party in the middle of the night and found himself here. There are houses along the highway across from James A. Reed, most of which are farms. And if you go a couple of miles down that highway, you do find a residential area. But the notion that he got ducked up, wandered miles down the road, hopped 2 10-foot fences, walked a mile down a barely paved road, went into the forest, crossed 2 deep streams, sat down on a pile of rocks, and decided to OD in the middle of the forest is equally, if not more, unlikely. So what happened to him? I don't know. I think it's a lot more likely they went into the forest during operating hours and all started doing drugs in the middle of the forest and they left him where he died. But still, this is a massive stretch. I cannot stress to you the difficulty of getting to this location. Anyway, why is this on the paranormal board? It should be on the "this sounds like some really bad police work" board, but I'm getting there, I swear. So we started our retreat back to the actual trail, climbing through the trees and brush, which was now significantly more difficult because we were going uphill, back to the first stream, and after that it was a steep incline, which was definitely going to require grabbing trees and getting firm footholds and some teamwork. But before we got that far, we had to trek back upstream to get to the point where we could jump across it. And right here is where it went ducking weird. As we are following the stream up, we stopped dead in our tracks as a middle-aged man in a full business suit was just walking in the stream. He was a tall dude. The water came up to right around his chest. He was in a white dress shirt, a black blazer, black tie, and he had a briefcase in his hand that he was kind of letting float behind him. He was walking down the stream, so coming directly towards us, but paid us no mind. We both just stopped and stared at the guy and then at each other as if to silently say, "What the duck?" And both of us backed up as he got closer to us. He passed us by without saying anything or even looking in our direction. He was bald, white, probably around 45 years old and fairly broad. He had a completely blank expression and he looked like he hadn't slept in days. He had massive bags under his eyes, which were completely dead. His expression was just dead. Slightly slack-jawed, eyes glossed over. It's worth nothing, he was dry from chest up. Like he just entered the water and started walking downstream. He was just walking straight down the stream, very slowly. We just stood there, completely silent, staring at this guy until he passed us by, and we were now looking at the back of his head as he marched forward. He could have easily exited the water at any point here. The embankment wasn't difficult, but he just soldiered on down the stream. We now moved way faster than we safely should have been, running upstream to jump across and get back on the trail and to our car, where we drove off and both immediately started asking each other, what the duck was that? We tried to tell our friends about this experience, but it was beyond even really conveying how weird this was. I don't even think I can properly put it into text to give you the proper context as to how ducking eerie it was. It was just dead silent in the forest, or at least it seemed that way. All we heard was him sloshing through the water as he slowly made his way downstream to wherever the hell he was going. I expected to read about another body being found, like this guy was off to hang himself in the forest or something, but no such news article ever appeared. But the vibe he gave off, like, man, I really can't explain the feeling that seeing this guy gave us. It was like overwhelming dread, confusion, and I'm sure some terror. I really don't even know how to explain the emotions we were feeling, and we both agreed we didn't even have words for it. It was a totally foreign feeling. Anyway, I don't really have any other notable paranormal experiences. I don't know about ghosts or any of that. So I'm asking the people of Reddit, out of curiosity, what the hell do you think we came across out there? I know I probably didn't need all the backstory to the dead body, but it's a weird case that locals generally feel was not sufficiently answered. Because anyone familiar with the area and location will tell you exactly what I just did. That both accounts of how he got there are basically impossible. So, were the body and the businessman in the river related? Or did we just stumble upon something else while out looking for the location? Who or what do you think this dude was? I want to tell you it was just a guy randomly walking down a stream of disgusting murky water in a business suit, because weirder things have happened. But I can't shake the feeling that this guy gave off. What do you think? Thank you, MrDuckTail, the author. Thank you for watching the video. So what do you guys think all this was? Leave your comments down below. See you again in my next video, and until then, please, be safe.